McShin Foundation is Virginia's leading peer-to-peer recovery organization. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, let us get you connected. We can help you build a solid foundation through recovery. Here at the McShin Foundation, we are committed to healing families and saving lives.
Well, good evening, everyone. Oh, we got to do that a little better. Good evening, family. There we go. So when you hear that roar, when you look at a person smile, when you greet them in recovery, you want to greet them with a hearty cheer. That's how you welcome life. That's how you celebrate existence. That's how we look at recovery at the halfway home. So when we do that cheer and we give that good greeting and that smile that takes a little bit of muscles in your face just to say, hey, it allows us to start building the courage, the strength, and the hope that surfaces to allow us to say, hey, you know what? Now we have the opportunity to care, and we're going to start our opportunity to talk. And that's part of what we do at the halfway home. We care about what we do. I am blessed to work with a team of individuals that show up every day, and their main job is to save a soul, even if that soul is their own. That's powerful. We get to meet people where they're at. Another powerful transition. So as they said, my name is Christine, and it is an honor to be the program director of the Halfway Home of Lehigh Valley, better known as HHLV, a division of treatment trends. And I know some treatment trends people are in the house today, so say hello. So a halfway home is just that. You're either going to be halfway home or halfway to jail. We could substitute jail with institution. We could substitute institution with anything that could impede on a person's freedom, life, and on top of that, their connection with their family. So as we talk about the halfway home, I want you guys to know that a halfway home supports the transition of change through real life experiences. And let's take a moment to look at that. That real life experience means that you take you everywhere you go. Now, clearly, I'm sitting up here with a bold voice, so I got to take me everywhere I go. So my friends love it, but my mother-in-law, woo, she don't like that. But it allows us to be unique, and it allows us to meet that person where they're at. Because that transition of change means that I have to treat the whole person. And in the halfway home, you get that opportunity to look at all the different recovery experiences you have had and now apply them. So in this real life experience, we get to do it in a safe, healthy environment that's fused with sobriety, healthy relationships, medical treatment, and recovery. Now that's a lot. So when a person walks into a place where now they can lay their head and say, okay, I can call this home. It is our job to make sure that as we continue to care about the individual, we are also talking with the individual. So one thing that I tell the team all the time is that our job is never to identify with the individual. Our job is to understand them. And when you learn to understand somebody, you are then able to take it from a whole different perspective where love surfaces, where hope surfaces. And on top of that, you allow that person the opportunity to be themselves, to be authentic. And that's the founding piece, because when it comes to recovery, we got to personalize this for it to work. Some people can't do 90 meetings in 90 days. Others can. But when you personalize it, and then you are allowed to live in an environment where we can care and talk about it, shit. That's growth. That is total growth. So this whole process of a halfway home is summed up in one word: habilitation. Habilitation means only one phrase: to learn how to live again. That's it. You're in a space where you could learn how to live again. You're in a space where you can wake up on time, be productive. You're in a space where you can learn to take your medications. Hell, even learn how to pronounce them or say them phonetically. It happens. But when we learn how to live again, we have to also look at it how now as a halfway home, we have to now collaborate. We have to collaborate with many different healthcare services in the Lehigh Valley area that makes the residents' transition very successful. And this is done through Star Wellness. This is also done through St. Luke's Sacred Heart Campus, because we send a lot of our clients to that ER. Okay. In addition to the Hellwick Diabetic Center, our Hep C clinic in Lehigh Valley, our Allentown, Health Bureau, and lastly, Health Lab Network. All of those places I just named allows us to look at the medical concerns that often surface when we come into a halfway home setting. Because remember, I said we have to look at the whole person. So yeah, we got the treatment part down as far as for substance abuse, but what about the diabetes? What about the hypertension? Or here's a couple of things that's been coming up for us. We also see a lot of people with gout. So now we have our nutritionists, now we have to make new type of meals to service that. One of the things that allows the halfway home to keep caring and talking about these issues very publicly is 3 words. 3 words that our clinical team uses a lot at the halfway home: commitment, love, and familyhood. So I need you guys to repeat after me. Commitment. Say that one more time. Commitment. Love. And familyhood. Familyhood is the part that grounds everything that we do at the halfway home. We walk into a room, we'll say, "Good morning, family." Good morning, family. There you go. And just like tonight, I said, "Good evening, family." Today, for the first time, a lot of people get to choose who their family members are. I don't know about you guys, but I was born into a family. I had no choice. Didn't have no choice. But today in recovery, we have a choice. So those 3 words build the foundation for support and togetherness for residents transitioning back into society. Because that's the extra piece to this, is that now you're in a program and you have to now transition back to a society, whatever that may look like. Back to a neighborhood you may have come from, or a new one you would like to be invited into. That's powerful. So now we have to figure out how are we going to now prepare that individual to welcome that new type of lifestyle. So it's important to note that halfway homes, and there's 25 in the state of Pennsylvania, 15 of them are really active and doing all the things they need to do to help support clients everywhere. It is important to note that halfway homes are one of the last links to taking an active stand or having an active hand when it comes to clients slowly reintegrating back. Now, for some of us in the room, what that looks like is everybody can't get a job in 2 weeks. Some people may need some more time. Some people can't work. We may have to look into other options like Social Security disabilities. Some people may have to go into recovery homes versus getting their own apartment. So it allows us to take our time and really invest in the client, which is all client-centered material, client-centered work. Hell, it's just about caring. That's what it is. It's just about caring. And when we care, we allow ourselves for the client to teach us, and then also for us to give back. And that healthy feedback is so important when it comes to now moving through the transitions where a person could be employable. Encouraging that person to say, "Hey, don't take that job. You've always worked in fast food, but you have a great speaking voice. Why don't you be a receptionist? Why don't you work in a hospital? Hell, why don't you work at a funeral home? Now remember, you're not going to work with the dead, but you could be the person that does the inventory. So it's really about thinking outside of the box. And one of the beautiful things about standing here today is that we get to now talk about what other programs out here, such as a halfway home, and why is it so valuable when it comes to transition of change. So one of the things I wanted to share in here is that as I talked earlier about some of the healthcare issues that we're currently seeing, especially for us at a halfway home, it allows us to develop more of a client-centered approach that allows the clinical team, us here, to deal with certain chronic medical conditions. So some of them is hypertension, like I mentioned, diabetes, Hep C, cholesterol. We're seeing a lot of COPD that's surfacing a lot. A lot of thyroid issues are happening as well. And lastly, dental care. And I like to pause when I say dental care is because one of the things as we try to help that client get back on their feet, it's important that that person has a beautiful smile. Hell, we just did that a couple seconds ago when I said, good evening, family. And that smile goes a long way. As we talk about other concerns, these medical conditions often impede on the client's recovery efforts. And we see that a lot as well, especially if they have trouble with their co-payments or they have certain insurances that just won't cover the needed medications. And as we're treating the whole person, we have to now help that person process, hey, this is how we have to now deal with this situation so that they don't overreact, they don't lose interest, and ultimately they don't give up. One of the reasons why I like to stay on the medical piece is because as we look at the whole person, we have to look at sometimes those issues that can be chronic, acute, it can be generational. And it allows us to take the time to really sit down with the client and know them better. Other challenges that we have seen recently is the extended medication appointments that we sometimes get. If you ever call a specialist and next thing you know, you don't get an appointment for the next 4 months, what does that do to a person in a halfway home? Another concern that we see, and I like to bring to the forefront, is the different type of medical rehabilitation programs. And a lot of times that can be anything from different types of rehabs, if they have issues with their fingers, if they have issues walking, if they have issues with moving with mobility. We also saw other concerns when it comes to access to medical specialists in the Lehigh Valley area. A lot of times we have to go out of this area so that the client can see a specialist. And I like to bring it out loud because, as my mother said, a closed mouth don't get fed, so that now it can start to open conversations with other healthcare providers in the room and also resources so that we can start making those changes and allowing the residents to have a full opportunity of properly healing. So some of the things I kind of want to close with tonight a little bit is some of the visions that the halfway home in Lehigh Valley is working towards so that we can make that transition for that resident back out into society more successful. And also it allows us to look at different type of healing paths that we have not really addressed or had the opportunity to really embark on. So one of the things that I know we'll be working on is working with Magellan and participating in their special need unit that address a lot of chronic client issues. So that was new for us to discover as a halfway home. Developing a halfway home hotline for clients that a lot of times leave. And they want to come back right away, but because of all the red tape and all the different processes that has to happen, they don't have no one to talk to. Another thing is partnering up with professionals such as chiropractors, reflexologists, massage therapy, and also different yoga instructors so that we can add a whole different element to treatment and healing that would be ideal. Similar to you, my daughter, my youngest daughter, she knew I was doing this tonight. And so she said, Mommy, what are you going to say? Because you always talk a lot. And I said, well, what do you want me to say? She said, well, and I shared this with my team earlier. She said, Ma, you know the difference between flowers that grow in the garden and weeds that grow in the garden? And I said, no. And she said, judgment. So I was like, that's my baby. You can always tell therapy kids. And that's a true statement. I'm a therapist, so you can always tell when your child can think on a different level. But she was right. The difference between flowers and weeds with judgment, and that's what happens a lot in treatment and in the halfway home. Everyone is people. As they say, even broken crayons still color. Good night, family.